Howdy. Today we are going to be talking about pedigrees. Now, a pedigree may have, I don't know what you all think about when you hear pedigree. Maybe you think of, different prized horses or thoroughbreds. Maybe you think of particular breeds of dogs, pedigree, or even dog food. But in our case, a pedigree is a family tree. So if I look right here where I'm highlighting, this is an example of a family tree in terms of a pedigree chart. Now, it doesn't look like a normal family tree, but there's a lot of information there. You may think of, having specific names and yada, 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 but all that aside, there are symbols here that represent females and males, and then it's able to show how many children they had. And then based on a family tree, you can actually follow diseases or traits within a family. And it can be pretty cool. So it's a pretty interesting topic, and I find it kind of neat because you can kind of do your own family tree as well if there are any really distinguishing traits or characteristics. I know when individuals have genetic counseling, from my own experiences, I found that they actually create these pedigree charts, these family trees, to try to trace different diseases within a family, such as cancer. At any rate, in a pedigree chart, we use Roman numerals on the left side. This would be the first generation, and then the offspring would be the second generation. So this is really a small pedigree chart. We use circles to represent females and squares to represent males. A line between the two is a marriage line or a mating that produced subsequent offspring. Okay, these would be the offspring or the children, babies. In this example, we have a boy, a girl, and another boy. This is also the birth order. So the firstborn was a boy, the second a girl, and the third a baby boy. Now, I mentioned just a minute ago that we can use these pedigree charts to show the inheritance of diseases or traits within a family. So if we have a square or a circle, again, males, females, a square or a circle that's not colored in at all, that is an individual that does not have a disease or trait. A square or a circle that is filled in completely is an affected individual. An affected individual. That means that individual has a particular disease or trait. In our last example here, and this is not always going to be shown. This is only in some pedigree charts. They may have a half filled in square or circle. And that half filled in square or circle means that that is an individual in the family that is known to be heterozygous, known to be a carrier for a disease or trait. This individual, the heterozygous individual, is unaffected. They are normal. They present as not having a disease or a trait. So there are 3 different types or patterns of inheritance that can be represented in our pedigree charts. So in this pedigree chart here, again, we see, first of all, 3 generations, 1, 2, and then 3 generations. This is showing a disease or trait that is inherited in the form of autosomal dominant. And how do you know if a particular pedigree, again, that's this chart here, is showing autosomal dominant? Well, we know that an autosomal dominant pattern of inheritance requires only one copy of a gene to give that individual a disease or a trait. It affects males and females evenly. And if you're looking at a pedigree as a whole, you're going to see a lot of individuals affected. Okay, again, these affected individuals have circles or squares that are colored in. Okay, so in this autosomal dominant example, this is our female, this is our male, this is the marriage line, and these are their children, female, female, male, and male. If we notice, they had 4 children. 1, 2, 3 of the individuals had this particular disease or trait. This male did not have the disease or trait. This is a marriage line to a female, and we can see that they had 2 females, 2 daughters. And that is again in the 3rd generation. In our next example, we're looking at autosomal recessive, and I'm just scrolling this all the way up to the top here. So autosomal recessive pedigrees, that's here. These pedigree charts jump out at you right away that there are half-filled circles and half-filled squares. There is also, in this pedigree here, only one individual that is affected. So the idea here is that an individual, in order to have the particular disease or trait, must have 2 copies of the particular gene. In an autosomal recessive pedigree chart, there will be carriers. Those are those individuals that have half filled in circles or squares. You will see males and females affected evenly. And essentially, there's really not many affected individuals. Again, in this chart, there's only one female in the 3rd generation here that is affected. In our last sample here of a pedigree chart, this is an X-linked or sex-linked pedigree chart. The trait is recessive in this case, as most X-linked traits or diseases are. In this pedigree, you're going to notice that if there are carriers, there are only going to be female carriers. And you're going to see males affected more than females, which falls in line with what we know about X-linkage or sex-linked diseases and traits. So again, here we have a female carrier, an unaffected male. This is our marriage line. This is our next generation here. This is a female that's a carrier. This is a male that's affected. This male has offspring with a female that is a carrier. This is their marriage line. These are their children. We see they have a male that is affected and a female that is affected. And that is an overview of, again, these are pedigree charts. These are family trees. And in the worksheet for this assignment, there will be 3 pictures of different pedigree charts, and you just have to answer some pretty simple questions about them. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.